Hello, this is a quick video overviewing your first assignment, which is the email to the instructor. Now, as I mentioned in the announcement, you need to be sure that you read the handouts on effective emailing, and you will find those underneath week 1 if you'll scroll down. And beneath Module 5, which is titled Netiquette, just click on the Netiquette email handout. You may want to print this out, or you can save it to your desktop or to your smartphone just so you can have it as a reference. And I'm going to click on that handout. Okay, now essentially this particular handout just goes step by step to each part of your email to ensure that you know how to compose an effective email. Now you're going to notice after this step by step kind of overview of each section of the email, at the very last of this information, you're going to find several examples of bad emails. Also, what you would describe as informal, ineffective emails. So you have a first example of a bad email, a second example of an ineffective email, and a third example of an informal email. So these are obviously the emails I don't want to see coming from you, and also other instructors, and in the future, potential employers don't want to see these types of emails. And you're going to see very quickly they're very hard to read. In some cases, they're so riddled with grammatical errors, they're sometimes incomprehensible. So just ensure that you do not write these types of emails. And then you're going to notice I have examples of what we as instructors and also in the future professionals would expect to see in good emails. So I have 2 examples of 2 good effective emails. So again, this is more what we want. These are examples of what we don't want to see in your emails. And very, very quickly, I'm just going to kind of go through just some of the, characteristics of an effective email so you understand what I'm looking for. Now, again, as I mentioned, you may send an email to me as your instructor, or if you have another instructor, it could be for another online class or for a class you're taking on campus. This is going to be an email where you're introducing yourself, okay? And also, if you have any questions about the course, you can present those in your email as well. So first thing, you need to ensure that you're prepared to send an email. Now, I don't want you to send a message through Canvas. You need to go to either your school email account or if you have a personal email account and send the email from there. Now, as far as your email address, ensure that it's something that is appropriate. If you're sending emails out, you need to have an email address that is formal. Notice I give the example of Love Muscle 69. That is not the type of email that is going to be likely open because we're probably as the recipient's going to be assuming it's some type of junk mail. Okay, I know I would not open that. I would think it had some perversity in that particular email. So make sure that you have an email address that maybe has your name, has your college affiliation, which is our school email, or something related to your profession, just something that you can see yourself using over the upcoming years. Okay, also, as far as the mood, but when you're sending an email, please ensure that you're, number 1, not sick, number 2, not tired, or number 3, maybe angry or stressed. Okay, it's never a good scenario to send emails when you are not at your best. Okay, very likely if you're angry, you're going to be thinking emotionally and not necessarily logically. So you need to kind of maybe type up a draft, okay, and then pause, wait, you think before you speak. You need to kind of pause before you email. Ensure that you save the draft, go back and look at that email, and just, make sure that it's not coming across too aggressive or abrasive, okay? Hopefully with an introduction to your instructor, you're going to be very positive and you're going to be showing a great amount of hospitality. Now, as far as your subject heading, okay, with your subject heading, this is going to be the first thing we as the recipient, which I'm going to be the recipient or another instructor, and this is the first thing that we see. Please don't forget to actually include a subject heading, because if you don't, it's just going to essentially put the first word of your email, which may be like dear, okay, because that's dear and whoever the recipient is. That's going to be really confusing. So create a subject heading that's clear to the content of the email. And I kind of give you two examples here. If you're emailing an instructor about an assignment, comparison and contrast essay, it would be a subject heading you could use. If you're emailing about a question regarding an assignment, quick question about argumentative essay introduction, okay? If you're just emailing to get to know the instructor, you may say an introduction of myself. Okay, just so the recipient, the instructor, knows why you're emailing. Now, in the future, if you ever have emails that need to be answered very quickly, don't forget to put urgent. Okay, that lets us know that as a recipient, we need to read this and answer the question as soon as possible. And again, as I mentioned, don't put urgent if the email is actually not urgent, because if you put urgent on every email, we're probably going to stop viewing them quickly and answering them quickly. Okay, so don't be very overzealous with that particular word, urgent. Also, don't use all capital letters. That seems very aggressive. And don't use also all lowercase. It's going to make it seem like it's junk mail. Whenever you are finished with your subject heading, you're obviously going to go into the text box and start typing your message. Don't just jump straight into your message. You need to have some type of a greeting or salutation. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to, of course, call the recipient by name. Okay, if this is an instructor, you usually want to use either professor, instructor, and then the last name of the individual. Notice I gave the example of Instructor Ferguson, or you could say Professor Smith. In the future, if you're writing emails for a professional setting, you may put the job title of the individual, like doctor, supervisor, and then the individual's last name. If for some reason you don't know the person's name, you may say to whom it may concern, okay, or dear supervisor. I mean, if you don't know the name, you have to at least put some type of title or reference to someone. And only put first names if you're in a personal relationship with those individuals. Usually this is the case with family and friends, but you're rarely going to do that in a professional setting, especially when it's someone who's your superior. Also, as you're writing, think about your audience, okay? As I mentioned, for this particular assignment, you're introducing yourself, okay? Give us basic information about who you are, okay, as much as you're comfortable in getting, okay? Maybe how long you've been in college, maybe how long you've been out of school, okay? How do you feel about this particular subject? Try not to be too negative, okay? What you hope to gain from this particular course. Any questions that may be had about the course, okay? Try to be as positive and uplifting as you can be, because you want to start off the semester in a very positive light. You want to have a good relationship and open a door of communication between you and the instructor. Also, make sure you don't use texting language, okay? Like the letter U, or just the letter, lowercase I, or the letter R, okay, for ARE. Those are tokens of informality that you use in texting language, but you never want to use in an actual email setting. And also other slang, in one of the email examples, there is a student that introduces their email of, "What's up?" Okay, that's not an introduction you would want to use, or a greeting you'd want to use with an instructor. That's considered informal, okay? So just remember, you need that tone of formality, okay? No contractions. I know we as Southerners love contractions because we say a lot in a short amount of time, but in our physical, like writing or emails, you want to use, formal English. Instead of can't, say cannot. Instead of don't, say do not. That's just a token of formal writing, okay? Also, as far as your introduction, you may want to actually specify the class that you're in. Our class is obviously ENG 1113, but if it's another course you're taking, like marriage and family, you may want to introduce yourself in reference to that class as well. Lengthwise, less is more. Your instructors do not want 5 paragraphs. We don't have time, because we're busy grading, and I know we have 20-something students in our class. So short and concise, to the point, as far as sentences and also length, okay? Usually you're looking at about 2 paragraphs at the most in an email, between 5 to 8 sentences in each of those paragraphs. So just remember, don't have long-winded emails, because more than likely about halfway through you're going to lose your reader, your recipient of the email. And as I mentioned, be careful of tone. Try not to write when you're angry or stressed out. Okay, pause, take a moment, and then come back to the email. But avoid using capital letters. That sounds angry and aggressive, and also exclamation points. That can also seem a little aggressive as well. This again is not texting, so you don't want to use emoticons or emojis, okay? So no happy faces or thumbs up. That's only in texting, not in actual emails, okay? And follow the rules of capitalization that you followed with your writing assignments in other classes. You need to have, proper punctuation, usage of commas, periods, exclamation points correctly, question marks, appropriate capitalization. Don't send an email in all lowercasing because it's going to look like it's a text. And avoid like major errors like run-ons and comma splices and fragments, and just basic things like spelling, and make sure you're using the right word. And proofread. Proofread the draft before you send it. Also, remember that this email is a reflection of yourself. Okay. In some cases, in the future, when you are going to be looking for a job, you may be sending an email with your resume and cover letter attached to it. If you have a horribly written email, more than likely they're not going to open the attachments of the cover letter and the resume. So make sure you're formal in your language and also just your tone in the email, so they'll want to go on and read your cover letter and resume. So take your time and follow those standards of good formal writing. And don't forget, when you're finished with your message, you need to have some type of closure. If you don't have a closure in your signature, it's going to be abruptly ended, and we're going to kind of wonder, is the recipient of that's it? So make sure you have a closure. Closures can be like sincerely, best, kind regards, thanks. Okay, and then you finish with your full name, like your first and last name. And if you want to give any contact information like phone numbers and email addresses, you may do that as well. And as far as like just any other considerations, if you have attachments, make sure they're not huge attachments, like as far as file size. Also, avoid sending like a huge amount of attachments. You don't want to send like 10 documents on an email because that's a lot to sift through. I would say you maybe have 3 attachments at the most, and have like the file names labeled very clearly so we as the recipient know what to open, okay? And just make sure before you send this email to me or another instructor, you really look at those bad emails and avoid those, and look at the good emails and try to model those. And I'm looking forward to receiving the emails from you, whether they're directly to me or I get to see, the other instructors that you know. But please just enjoy this assignment, because in the future you're going to be likely using email as your communication. But you do want to make a good first impression on your instructor, whether it's me or another instructor. I wish you the best of luck with this particular assignment, and you can also reference the rubric that's listed to know how I'm going to grade the assignment. All right, thank you.